There is an invisible map inside every American city. It has no app. No website updates it in real time. No government agency maintains it. And the people who know it best are the ones most of us walk right past without making eye contact. Right now, in your city, somebody is eating a hot meal for free, not because they found a coupon, not because a friend bought them lunch, because they know something you don't. And that knowledge, specific, earned, passed from person to person like a whispered secret, has kept millions of people fed in a country that throws away enough food every single year to fill 115 billion meals. There is food everywhere in America. The secret is knowing exactly where to find it. Now let's back up. Because to understand how this works today, you need to understand where it started. And it started in one of the most unlikely places imaginable. It is November 1930. Chicago. The Great Depression is in full swing, and on South State Street, in a building that smells like industrial soup and boiled cabbage and cigarette smoke, the line stretches around the block before the sun has even fully risen. Men in threadbare suits stand beside men who have nothing but the clothes on their backs. Women with hollow cheeks clutch coats against the bitter Illinois wind. And at the front of that line, greeting every person who walks through the door, is a man whose name most people associate with Tommy guns and federal indictments and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Al Capone opened a soup kitchen. He called it a soup kitchen because that's exactly what it was. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No charge, no questions. It served an average of 2,200 people every single day at a personal cost to Capone of $300 a day. He even threw a Thanksgiving dinner. 5,000 meals, one afternoon, one building on South State Street. And here is the thing that nobody ever talks about when they tell that story. It worked. People were fed. The line moved. The food was real. The kitchen was warm. Whatever you think of the man who funded it, the system he built on South State Street in 1930 solved the problem it was designed to solve. The question this video is going to answer is why, almost 100 years later, with infinitely more resources and infinitely more technology, we're still struggling to solve the same problem. Before we go further, drop a comment below. Have you ever used a food pantry, a soup kitchen, or a community meal program? Maybe you volunteered at one. Maybe someone in your family depended on one. Tell us your experience down there, because what you're about to discover will change the way you see the food system you live inside every day. Here's where the modern picture gets maddening. We are not in 1930. We are not in a depression. The United States produces more food than any nation on earth. And according to data from ReFed, one of the country's leading food waste research organizations, America generates 73.9 million tons of surplus food every single year. That is 31% of the entire food supply, worth $382 billion. Enough to fill 115 billion meals. And do you want to know how much of that food actually gets donated to people who need it? 12%. The rest goes into landfills, where it rots and releases methane and contributes to climate change. Meanwhile, 47.9 million Americans, nearly 1 in 7 people in this country, live in food-insecure households. That number comes from the USDA's own 2024 Food Security Report, the most recent data available. 47.9 million people. That's more than the entire population of California. And here is the part that should make you genuinely angry. America's food waste reached 74 million tons in 2024, and the government spends $142 billion a year on food assistance programs, less than half the market value of the food we simply throw away. The system didn't fail by accident. It was designed for efficiency, not equity. Supermarkets throw away food because of liability fears and logistical costs, not because there's nowhere for it to go. Restaurants toss entire pans of food at closing time because donation takes effort they haven't been resourced to give. And the people who need that food most are often the least equipped to find it, not because the resources don't exist, but because no one ever handed them the map. So who actually has the map? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the real, invisible architecture of free food in America, because it is far bigger and far older and far more sophisticated than most people know. The architecture runs on three tiers. Think of it like a river system. At the top, the headwaters, food banks. These are massive regional warehouses, logistics operations, really, that collect surplus food from farms, manufacturers, grocery chains, and government commodity programs and store it. The Houston Food Bank, the largest in the country, operates from a 308,000 square foot facility and distributes enough food to provide over 150 million meals a year across 18 counties. Food banks don't serve individuals directly. They're wholesalers, not retailers. The water flows downstream to food pantries, the community-level sites where individuals actually pick up groceries, bags of rice, canned vegetables, pasta, peanut butter, cereal, sometimes fresh produce. Enough for a week's worth of meals, or more, with no income verification, no appointment in most cases, and no charge. And then, at the mouth of the river, where the water actually touches the people who need it most urgently, soup kitchens. Walk in, sit down, eat a hot meal. No ID, no questions. About 85% of soup kitchens serve anyone regardless of income or housing status. Feeding America's network includes over 200 food banks and 60,000 food pantries, and in the most recent fiscal year, it distributed 5.9 billion meals to 46 million people. That number, 46 million, is so large it almost loses meaning. So let's make it concrete. That's the entire population of California and Texas combined, eating every year from a network that most Americans couldn't name if you asked them. And the Feeding America network is just one piece. The Salvation Army served nearly 167 million meals through 1,525 food pantries and hundreds of soup kitchens. Catholic Charities alone serve 28 million more through 167 agencies at 3,900 sites. This infrastructure is ancient. It is enormous, and most people driving past it every day have no idea it exists. Here's where it gets interesting. If you want to understand how experienced homeless people actually eat, not the theoretical system, but the real daily practice, you have to understand something that no app captures and no website lists. You have to understand the mental map. A 2017 investigation by Berkeleyside, a respected local news outlet covering the East Bay, followed homeless individuals in Berkeley and documented the kind of granular, day-specific geographic knowledge they carried. A specific Monday circuit might include an early meal at one church, a noon meal at a different congregation across town, and a late afternoon distribution in a park. But the key finding was this: knowing the list and executing the circuit were entirely different things. Most people didn't run optimized routes. Real life is messier. What they did instead was rely on networks. Other people, longer-term homeless individuals who had been sleeping outside for months or years and knew things that no newcomer could possibly know. Which days a particular church served hot food versus just bags to take. Which bakery threw away its day-old bread at 10 p.m. and left it neatly beside the dumpster. Which shelter had a wait list and which one had open beds on Tuesday nights. Academic research confirms that peer networks, not websites or caseworkers, are the primary way newly homeless people learn to navigate the food system. A study published in a public health nutrition journal examining homeless young adults found that a significant share discovered food resources exclusively through word of mouth. More troublingly, shame and stigma were identified as primary barriers. Many people didn't even know the services existed, and some who knew were too afraid of judgment to walk through the door. If you're finding this valuable, and if this is reshaping the way you think about what hunger actually looks like in America, hit the like button right now. This kind of content takes weeks of research to build, and it genuinely helps more people find it. Now, beyond the food banks and the pantries and the mental maps, there is a whole other world of permanent institutions that have been quietly feeding people in America's cities for decades. and most people have never heard of them. St. Anthony's Foundation in San Francisco's Tenderloin District has served free meals since 1950, founded by Franciscan friar Father Alfred Bodeker. It serves between 1,000 and 2,500 meals every single day, 365 days a year. No appointment, no ID, walk in, sit down, eat. Over 47 million meals have been served since it opened. Glide Memorial in the same neighborhood is the only San Francisco program providing all 3 daily meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 364 days a year. It serves between 750,000 and 850,000 meals annually. The Midnight Mission on Los Angeles' Skid Row has been operating continuously since 1914, named because meals were originally served at midnight after church services. 1 million meals a year. 3 meals a day, anyone who walks through the door. These are not emergency programs. These are permanent institutions, operating longer than most of the people watching this have been alive. And then there is the Faith Network, which is so large and so widespread that most people living inside it don't even realize it's there. Nearly half of all U.S. congregations participate in some form of food distribution. Nearly half. That means if you are standing anywhere in any American city and you are hungry, there is almost certainly a church, mosque, temple, or gurdwara within reasonable distance that is running a meal program. Sikh gurdwaras operate what is called langar, a free community kitchen open to everyone regardless of faith or background, a tradition dating back over 500 years. The Gurdwara Sikh Cultural Society in Queens, New York, serves 500 meals daily on weekdays and 1,000 or more on Sundays. During the COVID lockdowns and the George Floyd protests in 2020, they cooked 15,000 meals in a single day. No ID, no proof of need. Sit on the floor beside everyone else and eat. But here's where it gets philosophically complicated and practically brilliant. Because beyond the institutions and the faith communities, there is an entire underground economy of recovered food that most housed Americans have never thought about, and that experienced homeless people navigate with the precision of a seasoned logistics operator. Food Not Bombs was founded in 1980 by anti-nuclear activists in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The concept was simple to the point of being radical. Collect food that grocery stores and bakeries are about to throw away. Cook it into vegetarian meals, and serve it free in public spaces. No organization, no hierarchy, no paid staff. Decisions made by consensus. Today, there are approximately 1,000 autonomous chapters in 60 countries. In San Francisco, the city government was so disturbed by Food Not Bombs feeding people in parks that its members were arrested more than 1,000 times across the 1980s and 1990s, a series of confrontations that became known in local history as the Soup Wars. Let they sink in. People were arrested in America for feeding hungry people in a park, and they kept doing it anyway. And then there is what most people call dumpster diving, and what activists and experienced homeless individuals call food recovery. The U.S. Supreme Court's 1988 ruling in California versus Greenwood established that once something is left in a public trash receptacle, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy over it, effectively making dumpster diving legal at the federal level on public property. Trespassing laws still apply if the bin is behind a fence or on private property, and local ordinances vary. But for someone who knows the system, the timing matters as much as the location. The best moment is within an hour of a store's closing. Bakeries, in particular, throw away day-old bread nightly. Trader Joe's, Aldi, Panera Bread. These are documented hotspots. Activist Robin Greenfield, who has documented dives at over 2,000 grocery stores across 25 states, made a finding that stopped him cold. When he took people from Chicago's South Side to northern suburbs, they collected what he estimated was roughly $2,000 worth of perfectly edible food in a single evening from suburban dumpsters. Back in their own neighborhood of Inglewood, there was nothing. The abundance was geography. The scarcity was geography. Same city, 40 minutes apart, completely different world. And the newest piece of this system, perhaps the most democratizing of all, didn't exist a decade ago. Community fridges, publicly accessible refrigerators on sidewalks, operating on a simple take what you need, leave what you can principle, first appeared in the US around 2019 and exploded during the pandemic. The Frege network now lists over 200 community fridges across the country. New York City alone has more than 100. You don't sign in, you don't explain yourself. You open a refrigerator on a sidewalk and take food. Little Free Pantry, founded in May 2016 by Jessica McClard in Fayetteville, Arkansas, inspired by the Little Free Library movement, has grown to over 1,354 mapped locations worldwide. Small wooden boxes on posts outside homes and churches, filled with shelf-stable food, maintained by volunteers who just decided the gap was too large to leave unfilled. Feeding America's Meal Connect platform, launched in 2014, connects food donors with local agencies through a smartphone app and has facilitated the rescue of over 6 billion pounds of food. And none of it, and would exist if it weren't for one former executive named John Van Hengel, who in 1967 was volunteering at a soup kitchen in Phoenix when a struggling mother of 10 children told him she'd feed her family by searching through grocery store dumpsters. She told him she wished there were a place where excess food could be saved, deposited and withdrawn like a bank. Van Hengel took that idea seriously. St. Mary's Basilica loaned him $3,000 and an abandoned bakery. In its first year, St. Mary's Food Bank distributed 250,000 pounds of food to 36 charities. Van Hengel took no salary for a decade. He lived on less than $3,000 a year. His coworkers called him the Mother Teresa of celery. He went on to found America's Second Harvest, which eventually became Feeding America, and the Global Food Banking Network. He died in 2005. His idea now feeds tens of millions of people a year. It started because one man listened to one woman explain how she survived. So, why do we still have 47.9 million hungry Americans if all of this exists? Why isn't anyone telling people about these systems? Here's the honest answer, and it's 3 parts. First, speed. The food bank model, the mutual aid model, the food not bombs model. These require time. Sorting food, cooking food, scheduling distributions, building trust with community members. Industrial food systems optimized for speed and profit don't leave room for this kind of friction. It's faster and cheaper for a supermarket to compact its waste than to sort it, refrigerate it, and donate it. Second, cost. The Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act of 1996 protects food donors from liability when donating in good faith. There is no legal reason for restaurants to throw food away instead of donating it, and yet restaurants donate only about 2% of their food waste. The gap between legal protection and actual practice is filled with logistical cost, the staff time, the packaging, the coordination that no one has been required to absorb. Third, and this is the part that is hardest to say plainly, hunger is invisible when it's convenient to ignore it. The people who know the system best, who could draw you the map, who could tell you which shelter serves hot breakfast on Wednesdays and which park has food not bombs at noon on Saturdays, are the people most Americans have learned to look past. Their knowledge is real, their strategies are sophisticated, and they developed all of it not because anyone taught them, but because survival required it. That is not their failure, that is ours. So, what do you actually do with this information? Here's how to access these systems, whether for yourself, someone you know, or someone you want to help. The easiest thing you can do right now, dial 211. That's it. 3 digits available free in 99% of the United States, 24 hours a day in more than 180 languages. Food is the 3rd most common reason people call. In 2022 alone, 2.4 million food-related connections were made through 211. The operator will locate soup kitchens, food pantries, meal programs, and SNAP enrollment help within your specific zip code. You can also text the word food to 877877 for a USDA-backed directory of local food sites. And if you're in New York, City Harvest maintains a publicly accessible food map at cityharvest.org. The Los Angeles Public Library, yes, the public library, maintains a dedicated, regularly updated food resource database at lapl.org/homeless-resources-food. These tools exist. Most people just never needed them badly enough to go looking. If you want to go deeper, understand how SNAP works for people without addresses. Federal law explicitly states that homeless individuals cannot be denied SNAP benefits due to lack of a permanent address, a shelter address, a friend's address. Even the SNAP office address itself is acceptable. The average benefit is $187 per person per month. And in 9 states, California, Arizona, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, Rhode Island, and Virginia, SNAP benefits can be used at approved restaurants including McDonald's, Subway, Denny's, and Domino's through the Restaurant Meals Program, specifically for homeless, elderly, and disabled recipients. And if you want to start somewhere even simpler, look for community fridges and little free pantries in your neighborhood. Go to the Frege Network map. Go to littlefreepantry.org. There may be free food within walking distance of where you're sitting right now that you simply didn't know existed. And if there isn't, you can put one there. The box costs $40 to build. The food inside it costs whatever you choose to put in it. John Van Hengel wasn't a saint or a philosopher or a policy expert. He was a man who listened to a mother explain how her children ate and decided that the gap between what was wasted and what was needed was simply too obscene to accept. Every system in this video, from Al Capone's soup kitchen in 1930 to the community fridge on your block in 2026, was built by people who looked at the same gap and made the same decision. The knowledge wasn't hidden. It was never hidden. It was right here in the open, running on the street outside, in every American city, every single day. It was just waiting for someone to hand you the map. If this video changed the way you see the food system in your city, subscribe. We're digging up the systems and histories and survival knowledge that the modern world forgot to tell you about. And drop a comment below. Tell us what topic you want us to investigate next. The gap between what exists and what most people know about is enormous. We're just getting started.